Hello and welcome back to Bookish and welcome to my Saturday Hodgepodge, my weekly wrap-up of all things booktube, bookish, books, whatever the heck else I want to talk about. I didn't do a Hodgepodge last week, so this one might be a little bit longer than the others have been. It's really cold here in south of Houston, Texas, where I live. I think the temperature got down to something like 18 or 17 last night, which I know is not really cold for lots of places, and most of you are experiencing far more cold than I am, and will for longer. But it is cold enough to freeze the pipes in my attic, and I do know that one of the pipes up there is frozen. I'm hoping that the type of pipe we replaced it with the last time this happened is flexible and won't break, but I am on high alert, in a state of cat-like readiness to jump into action in case a pipe bursts and I have to do something about it. This is, I guess, as close as I come to a Christmas edition of Saturday Hodgepodge. So my wife and I have been doing some Christmassy things more than normal. So I thought I would create a couple little video packages and intersperse them here to, hopefully bring some holiday festiveness. I'm going to start off with my wife and I's walk around our neighborhood, in which we looked at Christmas lights, and here that video is. Since it's been a couple of weeks since I talked to you about what I read, I have finished several books. Two that I read and two that I listened to as audiobooks. Sorry, three that I read and two that I listened to as audiobooks. One is I did finish A Visit from the Goon Squad by Jennifer Egan. I'd mentioned I was going to finish this book, the last time I made a Saturday Hodgepodge, and I did. And man, I really, really like this book. It is kind of extraordinary. The characters that Egan creates, I think, are all interesting. And even though each character only occupies, small sections of the book, they are oftentimes, I think, there's quite a bit of depth to the characters. The way in which he structured the story, I mentioned this in the video I made about physics and fiction, as though, the people kind of are analogous to atoms that meet, collide, spread apart, and then some of them are drawn back together. And so in a series of what seem like individual stories of different characters that are not sometimes not directly related, she's able to bring together and create this idea of these people who are all in some way interconnected. In each story about one person, we meet the person who's the focus of the next story, and so on. Until then we begin to work our way backwards in these, atoms, these people who have drifted apart. Some of them come back together, either physically or, I guess metaphysically. Anyway, so I really like the book. I'm pretty sure it'll be on my top 10, my list of top 10 books reads for 2020. But one of the things that happens to me when I read a really great book, a book that I really love, is I kind of then have a hard time picking up another book that I feel like might be in that same category. For some reason, sometimes I just need a break. And so I was exploring the Libby app on my phone, and I saw that a book that I had talked about reading a year or two ago, 2 years ago, was actually available immediately on the Libby app, and that was the romance novel, The Kiss Quotient. And so I read that as an ebook. I read that on my Kindle, and I enjoyed it. It was pretty much exactly what I wanted. I will say that, you know, as a still a novice romance reader, there were things about the structure, the way romances work, which are, you know, obviously predictable, and so there isn't a lot of tension for me in terms of whether or not the couple is going to get together or not. And I thought that to a certain extent, the author had to create some kind of, you know, false tension in the story to create and make the story and the book last longer. The sex scenes were quite steamy, which I still have to be honest with you, occasionally makes me feel, you know, uncomfortable when I'm sitting in a room reading a book with my family. But you know, I enjoyed it and I thought it was really good. I do have a question though for, you know, those romance readers out there. Are there examples of romance novels in which the male character is not, you know, a prime physical example of attractiveness? That is a question I have. I also then listened to some audiobooks. I listened to Matthew Perry's memoir, the title of which I'll forget, but there'll be an image of it over there. I listened to Matthew Perry's memoir on YouTube of all places. I found an actual audiobook version of it on YouTube. I wasn't looking for it. I think my buddy Alan over at Big Hard Books and Classics said he listened to it, and I started listening to it just kind of, you know, casually, and I ended up kind of being interested in it. Now, it's kind of a mess, and I didn't come out liking Matthew Perry particularly, and it has nothing to do with his very real struggle with addiction. The thing I found most interesting about it was his discussion about his addiction and all the horrible things that led to, and the fact that he still recognizes that, you know, he is an addict, and only, you know, certain factors about it, certain ways in which his addiction worked out have gotten him off of certain drugs or certain substances. I was far less interested in Matthew Perry's love life. There's a discussion about many of his girlfriends. I was much less interested in Matthew Perry's life in the movies and the movies that he made, and I wasn't even very interested in the discussion about Friends. But without those things, I don't think Matthew Perry has a book-length memoir about addiction. But, you know, if you're looking for salacious info about Friends, you won't find it. And for the most part, you won't find salacious or negative information about pretty much any of the other famous people who appear in the book, other than Matthew Perry himself. I also listened to, while driving around in December, I also listened to an Honore Balzac novel called Gobseck, which essentially tells the story of I believe he is a Dutch Jewish moneylender in Paris. The fact that he's Jewish is not played up as much as is normal in a Balzac novel. I found the character to be kind of disturbing in the way in which Balzac presents him, but a character who was really effective at conveying, I think, the message that Balzac wanted to convey about usury and about money lending, and in particular about how Paris society worked with, you know, unfaithful wives borrowing money and selling gems to pay off debts that they accrued because of their love affairs, and trying to keep that a secret from their husbands, and their husbands finding out, and you know, pursuing wills and things like that, which would, you know, leave the lady, their wives out. All of that was really interesting. The character who's more or less narrating the story to us is a young man who meets Gobseck and becomes kind of an acolyte of him, and then becomes a lawyer, and Gobseck helps him or helps finance his rise in the legal career. And so there's a lot of the intricacies and the interest that I get from a Balzac novel are there. I will say that I don't think I'll listen to another Balzac novel as an audiobook, because I think it loses something when you don't actually read the language yourself, or read the words yourself. And then finally, I finished The Night Watch by Sarah Waters. This is a novel which really follows, I don't know, 5 or 6 different characters backwards in time during the years of World War II, and it's set in London. And so we see a lesbian couple and their travails. We see a group of women who work in the ambulance corps in London during the Blitz, some of whom are in fact gay. We see a young man who is a conscientious objector and who goes to prison, and there are all these storylines, and Waters does a great job of weaving them all together, and she does a great job of evoking the time period in which she's writing, and her characters are individual and believable and moving, and the story she creates is complicated. There is no easy resolution, and the way in which she structured it, going back in time from, I believe, 1944 to 1941, is incredibly well done. My only complaint about the novel is this. I found the storyline involving the young man who was a conscientious objector and who tried to kill himself being sent to prison. I found that storyline to be the least compelling of all of them. It may sound like on the surface it should be the most compelling, but I thought it was the least compelling and the least well realized of all the storylines. And it does take up a considerable part of the 520 or so page book. So that's my only complaint about it. But it's enough of a complaint to probably keep that from being, The Night Watch being one of my reads of the year, but I definitely intend to read more Sarah Waters as a result of that. All right, so in addition to looking at Christmas lights, my wife and I gave ourselves the Christmas present of going to the theater twice during the Christmas holidays. The first time we went to the Alley Theater here in Houston, which is a small repertory company theater, which nonetheless has a permanent, really nice theater and puts on really great and has a reputation putting on really great productions. And we went to see A Christmas Carol, which, if you watch my channel at all, I love all the Christmas Carol movies and the story. So we went to see that. I put together a little video footage of that here. There's not much, and you can't video during the performance, so I have none of that, but you get a little look around the Alley Theater and a short drive into the Theater District of Houston, and I'll leave that right here. Also this week I put up a video which has received not necessarily all that popular response, which was the worst Christmas songs. The worst Christmas songs in my opinion. I know because it's 11. I listed 11 of my least favorite or Christmas songs that I actually hate. And in that video, in some of the response to that video, some of the comments, people asked me if I would list some of my favorites. And I'm going to list 5 of my favorite kind of pop rock adaptations of Christmas songs for you right here. I'll leave links to all of them down below. The first is Winter Wonderland by the Cocteau Twins, a group kind of, I guess, of the late 80s, early 90s with really kind of atmospheric vocals and songs. Or sound, I should say, not songs, and they covered Winter Wonderland. Bad Religion, the punk band, put out a whole Christmas album, and I have to say that the songs on the album all sound about the same, but I did think their version of Angels We Have Heard on High was worth listening to. And then famously, and I mentioned this in the video where I listed my least favorite Christmas songs, Bing Crosby and David Bowie did a duet of Little Drummer Boy, which, you know, has just a beautiful kind of harmonies and singing. And even though I hate the song, there are other parts sung over it that I thought are beautiful. I'll leave a link to that down below. I think every year I've been on BookTube, I have provided a link to Run DMC's Christmas in Hollis, so I'll leave that down below too because I do enjoy that. And then a link to Chuck Berry's Run Run Rudolph, which is, you know, just a great rock and roll Christmas song. It's Chuck Berry. And then also, if I can find it, I'll leave a link to the Foo Fighters doing a cover version of that. So you get a little bit of Christmas cheer from those songs. Hopefully you like them. They do kind of run the gamut. Like I said, my wife and I spent part of our Christmas holidays and part of our present one another were going to the theater. I chose A Christmas Carol. She chose to see the Houston Ballet's performance of the Nutcracker, and we did that this week. And so I'll leave just a little video package of that here too. Again, you can't videotape the performance. As a matter of fact, a lady sitting next to us got in a lot of trouble for doing that. And so it's mainly scenes of getting there, and then the Wortham Center Theater where it's held, some of the interior, and then, you know, some shots of the stage with nobody on it. Anyway, I'll leave that video package here. And that pretty much does it for this Saturday Hodgepodge. I want to wish all of you happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. You know, hope that you are doing well and that you and your family are able to spend some time together during the holiday season, enjoying one another's company in peace and in harmony. And I want to thank everybody for all the support they've given my channel over the year and over the years. I really do appreciate it. I look forward to your comments in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching.